Hi, I'm just checking whether this microphone works. Oh God, I might have to put it a little farther away. What a beautiful sight, a room full of friends. My name is Jens Mönig. I'm one of the programmers of Snap, and I'm up here on the stage with three of my closest colleagues that are in the core team of Snap developers. And contrary to what's written in the program, we're going to do this together because it's been a team effort to get the new version of Snap out and to show you some of the highlights of the new features. Here's a word I did not know yesterday before I Googled it. Quindecennial, is that how you pronounce it? Apparently it means 15 years. So, you know, when you're my age and when Snap gets to be its age, anniversaries are a thing. So apparently that means it's 15 years since we began with BYOB and Snap and way back when in 2008. And when I came in here into this room, I saw this thing on the floor of the City Lab. And so apparently it's 15 and 2/3 years since the City Lab began, another anniversary that they're celebrating. And the special thing about the City Lab is, of course, that exactly 10 years ago, many of you, and some of us, have been here before in this very room. And there was also a large banner hanging outside. We've seen it before. And it was the Scratch Conference. That was the first European Scratch Conference organized by Hügle, who drummed up a couple of friends. And you see Hügle and Jose is Hügle here. And we're all trying to really be in the spirit of those conferences that Hügle made. Like we're still kind of savoring the spirit. So if Hügle is here, Hügle, you've really kicked this off. So we've changed since then, you know, a decade. We were younger and more beautiful back then. Some of us might remember that. These are just a bunch of my pictures. Some will be here today, some cannot be here today, but are still part of the community. It was always nice at these European Scratch conferences that Snap was permitted and other things, that it was really about the spirit of computing education and about having a diversity of tools and methods, and we really want to be in that spirit. Also, 10 years ago, we got to meet the wonderful staff, the wonderful people at the City Lab, again, Jose, Victor, and Bernard, who has become a very, very special friend and a core member of the Scratch, of the Snap team. So it's 10 years of Bernard. And of course, Bernard is not just working on Snap, but also on microblocks. And then, you know, the list goes on and on. So 10 years of Bernard. It's also 10 years since we have a Snap Cloud. At first, we had it hosted at MuleSoft for the first couple of years. Then Bernard and Michael rewrote it, so now we roll our own. It's actually 10 years of research of block-based computing and computing education at SAP. And I just want to say that, you know, maybe this is an underappreciated fact that if, you know, a corporate sponsor is in there for the long haul and doesn't expect you to, you know, have a return on investment like every quarter, that is something that is literally priceless. That is something because a corporation can do things a university cannot do. Universities can do things that a corporation cannot do, but it is something that is really unique and rare. And the research has been great. It hasn't been just about Snap. Like 10 years ago, John Maloney and I were about to join SAP, and we schemed all for GP blocks, which was going to be a general purpose blocks programming language that we ended up doing, and it has transcended and now lives on in microblocks as the implementation language of microblocks. And so there were a couple of years when we were the communications design group. Mark was a member of that group. So many interesting people were there. And it's amazing how our journey at SAP is still going strong. And I'm not just saying this, to please my boss who's here, but I'm genuinely happy that there's a way to do good things at a company. So today, I'd like to show you what we've been working on the last year, kind of what's new in Snap 9. And we'll take turns showing you some of the things. It's going to be about the community, about new things in the Snap Cloud. We're going to show you some things about classrooms and cool features about debugging. And we're going to start with Michael, who's going to show you something about the community.
So this is, in some senses, a preview of work that will sort of be ongoing, and of things that we want to evolve over time. But if you notice here, Jens happens to have this button. I'll log out of Jens's account in a moment, that says teacher page. And what that means, yes, is that in fact, that
Maybe you want to.
Well,
You need to log out.
yeah, I did. Yeah. Okay. Wait, why? There you go. Don't know why I didn't log you out. Oh, your keyboard is
Oh, yeah.
that tight yet? Okay. Oh, crap. That's not gonna work.
I'm sorry.
One sec. Let's see if I can do this right.
You probably want to keep me logged in.
Oh, you're already logged out. So
Yeah, do you want to keep yourself?
yeah. Yeah. Well, now I don't know where I was typing my password. All right. Okay. One second. Let's try this. It should be a long password. I have admin access to the entire site.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
All right. I can type my password in German. So that's a new step. The teacher page initially right now is pretty simple. And so the thought here is that what we want to do as part of the fact that the Snap Cloud is in many ways a labor of love. Bernat and I work on it, and it's neither a full-time job for either of us. So our goal is to provide teacher and student accounts at a really simple level. And Jadga will demo a feature in a moment that will make this, or that will help with some of this as well. But essentially what we want is for you to be able to have a classroom of sorts where you as a teacher can manage and create accounts on behalf of students. We're calling them students or learners, but it could be any context, a workshop, whatever. And all you really need is a username and a password for those accounts. And what we would recommend is that you create, usernames, something sort of non-identifying for the user. So, workshop user 123, Mrs. Smith's classroom, whatever it might be for the particular year. And you could upload or paste in a CSV file. And optionally here, what you have is the ability to create a collection. So if you've seen the Snap homepage, there are, on the homepage over here, each of these things is a collection of projects that you can manage for your own class. So we have ones for featured projects, topics of the month. You could make one for your own class that all your students could contribute to. And the second feature right now, the accounts that I have, because I'm an admin right now, show up as a little bit weird. They're unverified for testing. But essentially what you'll get is a page that lists all the accounts that have been created by your account. So these are accounts that sort of belong to you. You can log in with your email address if you will be the account email, and you could reset that password if a student happens to forget it. Because I'm an admin, I have a couple more buttons to delete and ban users that you might not have. But that's essentially the gist right now. One thing to know is that we do have the Snap forum, and by default, student accounts can't post or access on the Snap forum, just to prevent, that spreading of information. But what we do encourage students when they sign up is, though they may be students in your class, students can have as many user accounts as they need. So hopefully outside of class, if they're enjoying Snap, they make a personal account for personal use that can publish, share projects. And so right now it's going to start out pretty simple, but we're going to, make the page nicer, add a few features over time. The one thing I will publicly declare that we have no plans to do right now is grading or specific assignment submissions. We're interested in making other things easier, but we're not interested in making the 500th learning management system because that just takes too much time. I left a job to go teach because I was doing that. So that's where we are with student and teacher accounts. There'll be more to come, and Jadga has some cool new Snap projects to work with that as well.
If I want one, I mean, not me, other people, how do they get one?
Yes. Right now, the way that becoming a verified as a teacher works is you'll need to email contact@snap.berkeley.edu. With a special note that for people who are teaching BJC, we have our own sort of teacher verification process for those who have been involved in BJC. So for the BJC teachers, if you've signed up with BJC, just send us an email and tell us that. But what we're trying right now is just to make sure that, there's no particular reason other than having it not spread too far yet. But let us know. We can enable the account creation feature for you, and you can use it in your own classes and workshops.
And we also play very fun round.
Okay, so I want to walk you through how to get set up the accounts real quick. I made this project and I wanted to show a few blocks also because I always want to build something. So here's this project that I made about how you can easily create a CSV that you can use for your account creation. And in this case, what you need, as Michael mentioned, is a password. The minimum length needs to be 6 letters. So I made a block that can create random passwords, and you need a name. So what we want to do is we want to create a list where the first element is the name, the second element is the password, and here I can specify how many accounts I want. In this case, we could do 2, and then, and I don't know whether you knew that, we have an option to turn a table into a CSV file. So I can just use this CSV block here, and then I'll get a CSV, and I can export that to Jens's computer. Wait, yeah, I don't know, that should work. This will export a text file, and now I need to log into my Snap account. And log out. So you really now also know how the login and logout process works. Always pick long passwords. So I also have a teacher page already, and if you want to create bulk accounts, you can just go there and you can select a CSV file from your computer and open it here. And then you can, as Michael mentioned, decide whether you want a collection or not. And then you just click on Create Users. And I now just created SnapCon 1 and 2. So let's see whether we got them on my teacher page. Here at the bottom, we have SnapCon 1 and SnapCon 2, and they run on my email address. So if I need to reset passwords because student forgot it, I can do that with my email address. And this is how the teacher feature works. If you're interested in the project, I can share it later because I also made a blog that lets you create accounts, and you can even pick different types of passwords. Bigger blocks, please. Sure. You can have different types of passwords. Michael suggested that for BJC, they often use an addition of words. So feel free to reach out to me if you need the project. That's the new feature that Michael and Bernat built. So thanks for that. And thanks for your attention.
Okay, so I don't have much to show, even though I swear I worked a lot. But that's a good thing, because the thing is, the cloud was very terribly, well, I mean, not the cloud, but the website was not very well made, let's put it like that. I had this brilliant idea that in one weekend I could implement a page generator that would be simpler and better than what was out there. I was very wrong. And I wrote the whole Snap community site using that system, and things started piling one on top of the other. And, you know, wouldn't it be nice if we could loop over? Yeah, well, whatever. It got terribly wrong. And at one SnapCon, someone said, hey, wouldn't it be nice if you click on the name of the collection, if that would take you to the collection page? And I was like, yeah, that's a 5-minute change, right? 3 hours later, I gave up. And I decided we had to re-implement the site in something more reasonable, because any single tiny change would take forever, and it was a big mess. So that's what I did beginning last year sometime, and I finished this September. We had a bit of a hiccups for a month or two where things were not working right. The site looks exactly as it did before. I swear there is a lot of work in it, but just to prove that it was not in vain, if you click on the name of a collection now, it takes you to the collection, and it took 5 minutes to implement in the new system. So it was worth it. Other things so basically now it's easier to add this sort of features to the site. And one feature that people have wanted for a while and that we didn't have is followed projects. So you have the ability to follow, it says follow projects because projects by people that you follow was too long. And follow we projects, nobody understands. So we decided on followed projects, which is wrong but short. So if you click here, if Jadga is following someone, which I don't know, she's not.
But I might want to follow you.
But you could follow me. So if we look for me, you're not using my features. Who am I working for? So if you look for me, and you say, oh, wow, this user is making nice projects, I want to follow him. You click on follow this user, you're now following this user. If you go to followed projects, now you see all the projects by users I'm following, which are only my projects now. And additionally, you can see who is following you. I am following you. Oh, sorry, you are following me. I am following you too. Okay, so nobody else knows who is following you and who you are following, because we don't want to encourage popularity contests. This is just for you because you might find users whose content you love, but nobody else needs to know about that, okay? So know that if you follow someone, nobody except the followed person will know you're following them. Okay, these are the sort of things that are easier to do now and were difficult to do. As a very short example, we can also now make collections of, pages of collections. So we have a page here. How do you click on this thing? It's clicking really like. Okay, now it worked. So it's easy to make collections of collections now and put them in a page. So here we have all topics of a month, and each one of these is actually a collection. So these are the sort of things that we can now implement and we couldn't do before. That's it. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Many of you may not know who I am. My name is Victoria. I'm a student at UC Berkeley, and I'm also a working student at SAP. Yes, so I'm just the intern. But I did work on this little feature, which is like the visual stepping, being able to see the reported values as you go. So if I go into visible stepping, I can see. Sorry, let me see. I can like see the values that appear one by one. as they go, and they can open up this function and also see what's being reported inside. So, nice for students when they're not sure what they're expecting out of something, a smaller part of their function. Now they can better, debug.
Well, thank you, everybody. So this was a round of little demos. So now, what's actually other things that are new in Snap version 9? A lot of little things. And mostly, we've been listening to educators and to teachers and tried to meet the demands and the needs that have been communicated to us. I'm not going to talk about each of these things. I'm just going to show you, and this is not even the whole list of new features or changes. I'm just going to pick a few ones that I'd like to demo you. And I'm sorry, this time it's kind of more like a technical report, but we'll see. So we've been adding new features that we've already released in the course of the year. And I think it was around Christmas that we released kind of the version 8.1. And that was really all about named data, about so that we can now, instead of having to access list elements by their indices, we can also access them by names. And that has been sort of leading up to a bunch of other changes. And one thing that you might have noticed now in the new version is that some visuals have slightly changed. And that's because we noticed last year, like Mark Doxtel was giving this talk where he said, oh, I found out about this life hack that sometimes you can actually drop reporters on the arrowheads. And that's really important. And so we've added this little visual indication that if there's this vertical ellipsis, it indicates that yes, this also accepts a list. So this will also accept an embedded reporter. And if you hover over it, you'll see that it's a list, that it takes on the list color. And this really leads up to new visuals of these blocks. Like whenever you see the vertical ellipsis, this means you can drop a list over here. It's a truly variadic reporter, like it can have any number of inputs. Whereas if you see the plain buttons without the ellipses, that means it's static. It's a static widget. It won't be replaceable for a reporter. We've long thought about the design, and we're not yet sure whether it's right. We've also increased the size of the buttons because they were a little bit too small. We're not yet sure whether that's right because it might hamper the reading flow, reading the code. But, there's always, we thought it was really important because this is a feature, and I'll show you in a minute, that is really very useful when programming in Snap. And part of why we've kind of redone this little design is that this was something that Dan Garcia was very adamant about, that we've changed in the past year the operators, especially the infix operators, to be all variadic, sort of following the Zen of Python, that flat is better than nested. And so, for example, the plus block will collapse now into the sum block. So you can actually left click on it and see that it says sum, or and this lets you, and also it indicates that you can drop a list on this. And following along this, Michael and I sat together one night in Olot when we were there, and Michael said, boy, wouldn't it be nice, if and conditionals would be variadic, same as they're already in microblocks. So this is where we also use this control. You can see there is no vertical ellipsis, so you cannot drop anything in there, but you can expand it. And this is something that makes certain things, like certain stupid things, way easier. Let me just show you. Wait. Where did it go? This isn't where it should go. No. I had a bunch of, here it is. Okay. So, for example, let's take this almost comic thing, like I'm going to write a little comment. And you all know this. Output the numbers from 1 to 100. You already know what this is, right? If a number is multiple of 3, output fizz instead, and buzz if it is multiple of 5. So you all know it's the infamous fizz buzz. And I want to think about this. So first, I want to build, like, I don't want students to think about what it means to be a multiple of. I want to give them the block, because the idea of FizzBuzz is that it teaches you how to think exception-driven. Like, obviously, there's a case where a number is divisible by both 3 and 5, and that needs to be checked first. Whereas if you usually explain it, you say, if it's divisible by 3, it's by 5, and if it's by 3 and 5, and so the order is wrong. So the learning thing is, students need to realize that they need to reverse the order in which you tell them the thing. But I don't need to tell them about whether something is a multiple, so I'm going to make this block that is going to be a predicate, and it says, is number multiple of, and it shouldn't just be one number, but I want this to be variadic of other numbers, right? So I'm going to build this thing, so number is an input. And others is also going to be a number, but it's going to be multiple, right? So I want to be able to put in several numbers. So now you can see this. I'm going to apply this. Here already you can see the block. It's there. You can see that it has the vertical ellipsis, right? Which means you can drop a list on here. If you want to build blocks that do not accept reporters, like maybe control structures, you can do that also. Here is something that says, if it is static, it is irreplaceable if you say this is static. And now applied, you see the ellipsis is gone. And so if you now drag this over there, you cannot drop it. So this is something that was indistinguishable before. For the purpose of this thing, I want to make it just regular. The default behavior is you can drop a list in here. Let's just quickly do this. We had this last night with Bambi, where she said she'd never used recursion. Let me just show you. So we're going to start with the first item of the others. And I'm just going to say, there's the usual thing like the modulus. If you have the number modulus, the first item, you check if that's 0. That's one case. Then you take all but the first of the others. And maybe you didn't know you can actually drag block out of here for the recursive case. You can say, okay, if the number is, and now see, it doesn't go in here, but this is actually a case where it's really super useful. You want to put in all the rest of the numbers here. This is exactly the case, the recursive case, where you need the variadic features. You put this in here. And now we just need to stick this together. It's and it needs to be the first one and all the others. And now there needs to be a base case. The base case is if the list is empty, the others is empty. And we can say or, because there's some short-circuiting here. So this is, let's try this. So I can say, is 8 a multiple of 1? Yep, that's right. If it's a multiple of 1 and 2, that's right. Multiple of 1, 2, and 3, not so much. 1, 2, and 4, yeah, okay, good. So this is why it's important to discover the uses of variadic input, so you can have the aggregate use, the truly variadic use. It's something that when I talk about, I distinguish between polyadic, which has kind of any number of inputs, but you need to decide for a certain number, or whether it's truly variadic, like it'll take whichever inputs you give it. Okay, so here's this block, and now with the flat if block, it becomes really easy. So we take the numbers from 1 to 100, and we say, if I is a multiple of 3 and 5, we're going to say fizz buzz for 1 second. And now look at this. Instead of having to nest this, we can just expand this, and the default is always true. So we can say, okay, if it is, just 3, the multiple of 3, we just say fizz. We can again expand it and say, if it is just a multiple of 5, we say buzz. And then the last case is just, the else case. So we just leave this blank. We can switch between true and false. By default, it's true. And we can just say, okay, then it should just say I. So let's try this. 1, 2, fizz, 4, buzz. Seems to work. Of course, we have to wait for 15 to see whether it also does fizz buzz. 13, 14, fizz buzz. Okay, good, kind of works. So we can now do this in a much more straightforward way, and it's like both the variadic reporters and also the variadic if make projects way less intimidating when we think about them. Another feature that we've added is has this kind of name of runtime introspection. This is something that is an ongoing project where we're trying to make Snap more debuggable and more introspectable. So in the current version or in the old version, there was already this script reporter. So we've turned this into a drop-down menu. So now we have the script, the caller, the continuation, and the inputs. And so you won't find the call CC and the run CC blocks anymore because continuations can now always be accessed through this reporter. I'm also going to show you one thing that might be that we can are fun to do with this. So look at this project. Here's a little reporter that is foo. Foo calls another reporter that is bar. Bar calls a reporter that's called Baz, of course, and so on. And Baz calls Garply, and Garply does something. So what I want to do is I want to debug this thing. So I want to have a reporter that gives me the call stack, the current call stack. So I'm making a reporter that is a call stack. I'm just making this. I'm putting this in here. So this is if I can turn this on and off. Like if I turn it on, it debugs it. Okay, so let's close all these and define what call stack should be doing. So I'm going to define this little variable that is kind of the current environment. I'm going to set the current environment to this script. I also want to get a stack or make a stack. And I'm going to set the stack to be a list that starts with the current environment. And then I'm going to crawl up the call stack. I'm going to repeat until I'm hitting the rock bottom of reality. And that is until I'm at the level where there is no, like where I'm at the sprite level. So if I'm repeating until current is, and this is new, you can have the data types, but there's also the data type that is an agent. An agent is either a sprite or the stage. So we would like, whenever kind of we're hitting that level, and until we do that, we're setting the current environment to, and here's something we can do. We can ask the current environment for this caller. So see what we're doing? And we're adding this new environment to the stack. And when we're done, we're reporting the stack. So now here's my Garpley block. If I click on it, oh, I should probably say stack, okay. So if I click on this, I'm now getting a call stack of, here's the sprite, it calls Garpley, it calls call stack, and this is the thing. So remember the foo calling bar bass, so if I click on this, I'm now getting a very long, a deep call stack. And so this is the kind of introspection that we want to do that lets us build our own debuggers, that we can find out things about the runtime environment. And this is not done yet, it's a journey, but we want to give you kind of the tools that we know from Scheme that you can really build programming languages yourself. Okay, I'm getting confused here. And the last feature I just want to show you is something that we noticed also in OLOT. Did I remember how inspiring our time in OLOT always is? We were giving a workshop there, and we were showing off the usual way, like we love micro worlds, kind of little things where we make Parsons puzzles. And as we were building these, we thought, wait, we were doing it wrong. It should be way easier to do these puzzles. So this is a one-click micro world feature that's new. Let me go back to FizzBuzz, right? So here's the FizzBuzz example, and if you wanted to use something like FizzBuzz, give it to your class, what we usually tell you is, hide all the blocks that aren't used, then remove all the scripts, maybe leave the comment there, and it has several issues because once you remove the scripts, they're gone, right? Like maybe you want to edit it. So we want to make it really easy for teachers, for educators to build these Parsons puzzles. So this is what we've built. Here is a generate puzzle thing that every sprite has. If you generate puzzles, it does everything for you. It removes all the scripts. It shows only the blocks it needs in the palette, and it leaves the comments here. And it does not actually delete the thing because now the sprite has turned into a sprite puzzle. You can give this puzzle to somebody, it has the solution. You can extract the solution. The sprite has the original solution in there, so you can compare it. That's very much in the spirit of not really hiding things. If you want to give your students a puzzle that doesn't have a solution, you can delete the solution from it. But we figured you might want to check it out before you give it away, so you don't want to actually delete your scripts. So we really want to encourage educators to use this feature because we know that, we love to give open-ended assignments, but we also know the reality of schools and we'd rather have you design great projects as puzzles than not do anything at all. So please make use of this puzzle feature. So as we were doing this, we were thinking about, well, so we have a bunch of these examples ourselves. Like, for example, we have a project that we like to do that is, maybe some of you know, that has two sprites. It's just a little project, and we love doing it with kids that come to SAP. So here I can take the lens sprite and generate a puzzle from it. So now I've got the lens puzzle, and I've got all the blocks that are used by lens. But I've also got this other sprite, and they work together. And we'd like to make a puzzle where both the sprites are puzzles. And so if you switch to the other puzzle and say generate puzzle, what happens is it adds to the already existing puzzle. So now we have two puzzle sprites, and here is the union of the blocks needed by both sprites. And so now we have a puzzle, like a multi-sprite Parsons puzzle. And so as we were thinking about puzzles, kind of one-click micro worlds, one thing occurred to us that, since we're now having these solutions as part of the project, you can have the solutions embedded or you can remove them. There's another use for comments that's interesting, and we talked about this over lunch. Sometimes comments describe what the code does, but in this case here, it'd be nice to have comments not just describing what it does, but to be a tag. So consider this example that we've done a lot. This is the grand gesture example. It has a bunch of scripts, and we love doing this, but there's too many blocks. So what if we turned this into a puzzle? So we generate this into a puzzle. Here's all the blocks we need. But there's several scripts here. Now we can always look at the solution, but it's too much. So we'd like to build some help for the students. So we try to combine kind of the tools of auto-grading and meta-programming, so educators or people who work on courses can build things. And so one thing is now you don't see all the blocks, but you can always see all the blocks if you get to the hide blocks palette. And here you've got all the blocks. So one thing that we added is in the My block, there is, the My scripts, but there's also My solutions. And it'll be empty if there isn't any solution. But if you have My solutions, what you get is a list of lists, a dictionary that lists all the comments that you along with the scripts they're attached to. So we're using the comments to tag the solutions, to identify the solutions. And so one thing is we'd like to find this solution for any of these things. So we can now, for example, make a block, and I'm going to make a little block that says hint. I want to give a hint. Here's the block. So I want to give a hint for this, or I want to give a hint for this script, or, so I basically want to attach a comment to a hint, and then I want to click on here and see something about that, that gives me an indication of what might be expected from me. So first I need to read the comment that is attached to the block. And there is a new feature that says I can get the comment of a block, and it should be the comment of this caller, actually, right? It's the comment of this caller. I need to unringify this. So now what I'm getting is I'm getting the text. Sort of the comment is like an input. I can read what's attached to the block of the outer environment. So wait, if I have that, that's interesting. I can now find the solution using another feature that we put in earlier. So I can say, here's a solution. And the solution really is, the item of the comment of My solutions. Get it? It's the dictionary feature, right? And then I can report that solution. So here's the solution to this script. Here's the solution to this script. I can read this, right? So, of course, giving away the solution might not be the greatest thing on earth. I want to give a hint, not the whole solution. So in order to do this, I can use metaprogramming to split the solution by blocks. And then I can use the list features to say, okay, I want to also flatten that list. And I want to, when I do this now, I'm getting every syntax element in here. I'm also getting the numbers. I only want to keep the blocks. So I can use keep. I can use all of the glory of Snap to say, okay, I want to keep everything that is the script, right? So let's look at that. So now I have only blocks, but some blocks are in there several times, twice, because there are several times, I've got the repeat block. So There's another thing that we added to the list block. Bunch of things like easy analysis, like there's a uniques button, so we can unique selector, we get the uniques, and we can maybe always sort them so that they're always in the same order. So we want to make sure that things easily accessible. So now we've got this block, that's a hint block, that gives us sort of the Parsons puzzle menu of each of these, because here we've got the sum of all blocks, but it's got several scripts, and you could say, okay, now I want to take these and start building these things. I can just drag them out and get hints. Okay. So we're glad we found sort of use for metaprogramming. There's going to be more down the road, but this is just a couple of highlights of the new release. Please read the full release notes. There's more in there. Have fun, and thanks for coming to SnapCon. You're like way too late? Or?
No, we have 7-8 minutes. So.
Oh, great. So we can have breaks or questions.
There were some questions on Zoom.
Bambi.
So the question, can the teacher click on their student to see the projects? Not right now. We will probably implement that sooner rather than later. Because you have the username and the password, though, you can at least log in as the student. We have ways of making that easier, but today it's you just need to log in private browsing mode is probably the easiest. Yeah. Do you want to, Victoria, you want to do it on the mic?
We have one question for Jens. Is this just for blocks and scripts with hats or for dead blocks too?
What was the question? Like, is it?
Whether the puzzle feature only works for specific
The puzzle feature works for all blocks. It's doesn't matter whether it's a hat block or not. And the comments, you can attach them to the hat blocks or something else. So if it's attached to a hat block, it'll still identify and tag that script. You can also programmatically set comments, for example, to like when you make a custom block, if you attach a comment to the prototype hat block, it'll show up as help text. And if you programmatically, use the define block to make a custom block, you can also set the comment, and if you open it, you'll see the comment as a sticky comment.